Okay, so this is the HTML file. Okay, so this is the HTML file. Okay, the HTML file basically contains all like the HTML codes of sort, and HTML is a markup language that's used to define the structure of a website or a web page. After defining like the structure, over here you can see a few tags. You can see the head tag, you can see the title tag, which is able to display the content in the title bar. You can also see the body, which contains the main content of the actual website. And there are a few tags in there, like the section tag to divide the HTML code into different various sections. After defining like the entire HTML structure, we then started using the CSS. And what we have here is what we call external CSS. Over here, we don't write the same CSS inside the HTML file, but then we create a separate CSS file. And the way we link them together is by using the link tag over here and specifying the href to be the source of like to be the path to the file. Sorry, yeah. So that's how we link the CSS to the HTML. In our CSS here, we've defined a few styles. We've defined or we've set a rule on the body that the font family should be Korean name. But in a situation where it doesn't exist, it's going to fall back to the Curia and then the monospace. So that's why we have like three different fonts specified. Then we also have a selector that's targeting the header. So if you look at our HTML, this is the header. So if you look at the HTML, this is the header here. So it's a class. So then we are using the CSS property to attach to this entire section here because it's having the header property, the header class name, sorry. So to specify a class or to attach like a CSS rule to a class, you bring the period before the class name. So you can see dot header over here. And then we set a few styling. The background color to be RGB. So we have the red, green, blue, and then alpha. Alpha being more of like opacity of sorts. Yeah. Then we've given the pattern of 15. So around all the elements, we are giving a space of 15 pixels. And then we are turning the header into what we call a flex container by defining it with the property of display flex. Then justify content space between aligns the various items, like give provide space between the two items. Yeah. And then align item center, puts them on the same line. Then then we have the we have um class name that's selecting the nav. So if you check the HTML, this is if you check the HTML here, the item with the class of nav we have selected inside our HTML. And then we are selecting the A attribute, even though we brought it. When we do this over here, it means that we are saying that look inside the HTML file, find the item with the class name of nav, and then inside that find the elements with the tag name of A. So basically, we are attaching it to this items here because this is a tag A, anchor tag inside the nav class, like the nav bar. So over here, we are setting the margin left to 50 pixels and a few other styling like the color and then the text aligns the text aligns. Then you also have um, a styling to attach to the hero section. So if you look at our HTML, this is the hero section over here. You can see the class name hero. So it's going to apply to this over there. So over here we specify the URL. So we are saying the background color should have an image, and that's why we specify the URL here with the styling of control center cover. So center positions the image in the center, and cover makes it fill out the entire width. We've set some additional properties such as the color, sorry, and then the height. We also have also here considering the image is over here. So this is what we call a relative path to the image. So there are two types of path. We have the absolute path and then the relative path. The absolute path specifies the path of the image from the root direction, that's the C drive. But then this one is relative to the folder structure here. So that's why there's no additional folders before it. Then we also specify some properties inside. Then we have then we have another class rule, another CSS rule that's targeting the um all the elements with the class name of menu. So if you check inside HTML, notice that this section has a class name of menu. So that's what we are targeting inside over here. We've given it a text aligned center, so all the text is positioned in the middle, and a padding of 25 pixels. That means there's space around all the elements from the border. We also have a menu container here, and this is also under what we call flex container. So flex containers have their display properties set to flex. When you use a flex, when you set an element display to flex, you unlock a few new attributes such as the justify content and then the items align, but we're not using that here. So justify content aligns the item on the main axis, and then the items aligns the item on the cross axis. So right now on the main axis, we are saying that the element should be centered like in the middle. We also specify the padding and then the gap. The gap is saying that there's the spacing between the various flex items is what we call the gap. So that's what the gap property does. And then there's a margin of that. So then the last rule in our CSS is the card. So the card is going to be applied to all the HTML elements that have their class name to be card. So that means this one, this one, this. So these three elements all are going to have the CSS styling applied to them. So the first thing we've done is that you set the background color to this red hue using the RGB. So the first value represents the R, the second represents the green, and then the third represents the blue value. Then there's also the A, which is the alpha. It also sets the padding and then the width as well as the border radius. The border radius specify how rounded or curved the corners of the border should be. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so now if we try to run this, let me feel that I have all the class. You can see like website over here. So these are the properties that we have specified for our website. So this is the header over there, the hero section here, and then the card items right here. So if we were to make any change to our CSS, for example, if let's say change the color from this red to the yellow or green or whatever it is, I'll save that so that the card color changes as well to that greenish hue. So we can also change use the flex items on the menu container to rearrange the items. So for example, we can make this end, so justify content end, and the items are shifted to the end of uh, view. Yeah, we can also make this start, and then it comes to the front there. So there's so many things we can do with the flex property. We can also use the items. I think I spoke about this element. The items, align items, sorry. To align the items on the cross axis. But then for this to work, we need to make sure that the flex container has a height for each way. So let's give this a temporary height of let's say 42 rank, and then it becomes bigger now. So using the align items, we can make this to even end, and this is arranged at the bottom right. So because it's the cross axis, we can even make this. We can. There are some things you can do with this. You can just make this center, and then that's over there. So in the center, but it's at the end of it because of the align items. What to say? If we want to be exactly in the middle, we can make both of them center, and that's a very interesting way to center it. Yeah. Thank you very much.